שלום לכם ותודה שאתם מצטרפים אלינו לחיים חדשים, סדרת השיחות עם...
Thank you for joining us with our series New Life with Dr. Laitman. Hello, Dr. Laitman. Hello, Nitza Mazuz. And we're here talking in this series about the new world of work. We talked about lots of perspectives up till now, and we're trying to learn from Rav Laitman. He's showing us the perspective, the integral perspective to life, how we can relate to ourselves and the people that are with us in an upgraded way, and the organizations we work with, and life in general, how to learn this new life. You're welcome to join us. And today, Rav Laitman, we want to talk about the management of the change. Up until now, we made all kinds of points about the organization, the workers, etc. And you gave us new insights. Today, we want to dedicate this talk to how we go to the organization and take them from the current situation to the future situation, where there'll be an integral environment and also the worker inside the environment and all its systems. How do we, in an intelligent way, manage achieving results, the process from the current situation to the future situation, the integral situation? Nitza, how do we approach this discussion? First of all, managing the change is one of the most important aspects of the change, because the process can be wonderful, but if you don't know how to do it with the correct steps, tactical steps, then we can, God forbid, not succeed, or the organization may not succeed in the process or implementation later on. So then they had some short-term effect from the course, and they go back to their old habits. We want genuine health. When we have this approach that's very solidified that you've given us, and we've managed to put together a system where we know its stages, and now we're in the concluding stage, when we're looking at the full picture, and now we're trying to see how we manage this process, this step. We know it's a gradual process. We need patience from the side of the organization and the worker. It's an ongoing stage. First of all, it's an educational process. Never take a step unless the workers, the entire organization, in their spirit, in their mind, in their organization, internally, they're ready for the change and see it as the single and only correct and necessary step. That nothing will happen unless we're all confident, all of us, all members of the organization, the workers, that we must make a change like this, and then like this, and then like this. Gradual changes in accordance with what each of us experiences, and together in the connection between us. That's how we will implement it later in the work relations, the organization's relations, the system, and the general format of the organization, from inward outward. That's it. That's the main thing. That's the main principle. And we also need to more or less make a future image for ourselves that we must approach to reach at some point, let's say after a year or two, I don't know when, but it has to be some sort of desirable thing that everyone agrees in advance that that's how it will be. Otherwise, each and every step will get stuck on all kinds of questions and arguments and problems and misunderstandings. The final format, the integral organization, where everyone receives equal pay, everyone is equally concerned about the work, everyone's equally concerned about the private lives of each person, family, children, and everything. It's like a little country that looks after everything. And in this manner, we see the organization that its entire profit is profit that we supply to ourselves, material life, in a rational manner, equally to everyone, equally from the greatest to the smallest. That's after education and many stages, of course. But to know more or less in advance that that's what integral is all about. That we will reach it through education and the changes that we will make in accordance with that in the organization. And that actually all our profit will be in living in a good society, a safe society, that our connection between us will be where everyone is guaranteeing the other a good life, their health, child education, everything material that we can possibly think that will be good for a person. That is actually our goal. An organization has to supply materialism that is accepted by everyone in an equal manner, and to make sure that people are motivated, that they relate to one another well. And apart from that, we have to make sure that we will advance in the inner relations between us to a state where we are constantly, the warmth, the concern, smiling, a good relation to another will fill us to such an extent that we will feel that truly this is happiness. And that is actually what we need to convey to all the members of the organization. At the same time, along with the proof and examples that in our time, because evolution has brought us along this manner and is obligating us, that we cannot exist. Even on the bad side, where we're escaping the bad, and even on the good side, it's not just the good of nothing or the bad of nothing. It's the optimal state from all sides. We don't need to increase anything materially. We don't need to do anything more except to think how we are in one heart. And in that, everyone will receive a bonus above their basic material things, that everyone will feel good. That is the future format. Now, in accordance with what we convey to an organization, workshops, changes, we'll see the extent to which we can reduce gaps in salaries, vacations. We'll see how we can add additions, bonuses, vacation days together, all kinds of tours, fun activities that all contribute to bonding. How we can do all these things less with instructions and rather more with a warm, how we can talk to each other nicer, managers to employees, and the opposite, that everything will be more friendlier to the extent that it's possible, apart from the commandments that we have to carry out. How do we insert elements of love, friendship, warmth, participation inside the work system? But that depends on how we To make a long story short, the system is simple. In accordance with the educational plan that we put everyone through, in accordance with that, we will be able to write to ourselves what changes we can possibly make each time. And that's it. Usually when we do a process, we try to create an image. What's special in this approach compared to other approaches? In other approaches, it's easy to make the future picture because we see it as a picture that from where we're standing, it's a very big improvement, and it's easy for me to imagine because it's in a range that I can imagine. In this special approach, because it's on a different level, I'm not even capable of seeing the future picture at the beginning. I can see maybe a very close stage. So my question is, it's possible, I'm asking, maybe we don't need to see that far-off picture because from the place where I am with my old thinking, I don't think it's a place I want to know or see at this stage. Maybe you should just show me the closer picture in a manner that I'll be able to grasp this approach. It's possible on one hand. On the other hand, I see that all those forms, cooperative forms that they used to have, today they're taking lots of elements from there and are getting into very big corporations as part of the active and most effective part of the organization. And still there's an inclination to have partnerships, have a kibbutz in the city, that we see on the background of the crisis and bankruptcies, these things, it gives people inside the organization confidence, warmth, a feeling of belonging, which is very important. And again, of course, it depends on education, but it appears to me that it's possible. What's possible? To provide them with more or less a future picture of connection, collaboration, full collaboration. We're not talking about American banks or something. We're talking about not huge organizations. I'm seeing something, a company, let's say, an average company, that a few dozen, at the very most a few hundred people work there, that can see itself. We don't talk about it right from stage one, but they can see themselves existing in this way, and the main thing is that they can supply everyone that is in that company a secure future, so that people can see a secure future, an average. It's warm, it's pleasant, it's pretty compared to God knows what, something that will explode. I just felt that I just want to focus on the subject. The subject is how to manage the change, not from our perspective, but rather how our organization meets an organization, let's say the size that you mentioned, How do we meet them at the point where they exist today and begin with them from the first stage, a process where we want to begin getting this integral insight, this approach to life based on the integral approach to the organization. If part of the things you said, you don't want to present them at the beginning of the process, then it's not the subject of the conversation. The subject is how to come with the integral approach and be welcomed inside the organization and take the organization through a process that you won't have any resistance inside the organization, or maybe the organization doesn't understand what you're doing even. And on the third side, it starts demanding this change on its own, which could be a result. It's a result of the education that we provide, but that's at the end. No, not at the end. This is what I'm talking about. So in this conversation, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about how you, as an organization, bringing the integral approach, meet an organization and begin to manage the process. I don't manage any process. Of course you do. No, I don't. It's to get a new perspective. That's it. Not an administrative change. No, 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 no. Not salaries or anything. Just how you're concerned, how you look after that the insight, the approach that you want to advance will succeed in being received, and gradually the organization will. You see, you succeeded in the process. You take an organization, you took them through the process, and you succeeded in getting the result that they have an integral perspective. So if there's things that you say, okay, let's not talk about that now, that's exactly what our subject is not. Our subject is in what steps do you come and get this approach accepted in the organization without all kinds of people standing up in the organization saying, yes, I want, I don't want, what do they want from us? We're not coming to change the organization in any manner. I'm coming and explaining to the audience that I'm coming to them just to open their eyes. One approach can be made up of other approaches. I'm not conflicting with anyone. I'm just saying that there may be all kinds of approaches to life. There's changes that all of humanity is going through. And then I want them to get to know this integral approach. I don't want to educate them. I don't want to change them, nothing. Just on the outside, show them some things and say, look, we've got an hour twice a week, let's say, and we will deal with it. Then I explain the nature of man, the nature of creation, the will to receive, the will to desire, how it changes throughout evolution, what we have attained, what the external signs demand of us. What do we see from the side of science, psychology? How are we developing? Out of a lack of choice, why are we running into problems that our nature is opposite, etc., etc. I take them through 15, 20 discussions and workshops and meetings, and they reach the conclusion that us and all of humanity are now in a very special process. From today to tomorrow, people don't know what's happening with them and what will happen with them. Some people are thinking about the end of the world, and some people are preparing themselves for the end of the world. Some people don't care about anything. Let's drink today because tomorrow we're going to die. Everyone thinks everything's okay, everything's just like normal. How can we see these things in the correct manner? To make it easier for us with all kinds of problems taking place, whether it's educating kids, problems at home, problems in the relations between people, problems at work. not in some point or locally, but first of all, the general philosophy. And in accordance with that, we need to see here and there, they have changes between them, how they change. Now we're doing surveys, sometimes, or ask people all kinds of questions, that it's clear to us from that, the reaction from them. We can see their advancement, how they absorb the material, how they're changing. And then we need to continue and see how our actions raise them up, change the work relations between them. Maybe we're already working with managers, then they need to be softer towards the workers, that they won't continue talking and talking to them like a boss with their worker, but rather more softly. Friendship, some sort of friendship, and provide examples of it. How do we get them out to a picnic or a tour? Not with each person sitting in their own corner under the tree in the park and eating their sandwich, but rather a table all together. And everyone prepares something from the home. Yes, it can be at the expense of the owner of the company, but we get them into participation. From the side of work, they work in a friendlier manner. They have the ability to help one another. According to the relations that according to the pressures coming from nature, we need to be connected in a circular manner. And anyone who's in it is making more profit in a spiritual, inner way. We're attracting children and their kids. We're organizing all kinds of chugim. There's a very wide space here. It appears to me that we will feel, according to the questions and answers and the surveys and rumors, how we will advance. And the advancement has to be very soft. It's not like from today to tomorrow, based on the manager's commandment, there's changes like this and like that. It's rather needs to happen in a smooth manner. Just like you have chalk, with the automatic gear, you don't feel when it's being exchanged, the gears. But it changes inside. And that is actually how it appears to me we can provide an example like this, that they don't really feel that they're going from state to state. But because they are changing, so the relations are changing. We need to match all these changes according to what they're changing. The process has to be very soft. I think it will be a process, a quick process. We can see that from all the events, we can see people really are driven to get a ticket. They really aspire to be there. the women from our office. This is exactly where I want to get the questions from Nitsa to focus our discussion, how to manage this process by people coming from our organization and meeting them. What's the proper way to do it? Nitsa, maybe you'll go over. So usually, in any process, the managers and the workers sometimes have a feeling of lack of clarity. They don't understand what a process is. There's a general confusion, and it's total. That's what's happening right now, and it will be even more so. We just have to get them through this series of hafalot. About where to start, how to start, that we'll talk about, but in that there's no difference between the managers, and let's start asking questions, it'll help. In usual processes, first the managers go through stuff and it trickles down. So the question is to start at the high vibe or together. How can we gradually, according to what you see out there in the field, in the country, that we're operating now and with all kinds of municipalities, let's say, we see that the work with managers is very, very good. They see what material they have in their hand. They understand how difficult it is and how there's all kinds of calculations, egoistic interests of all the workers, and that everything is stuck on all kinds of rubbish, very brief relations between people. No one wants to work, and no one wants the other to work, to succeed more than him. Therefore, organizations are very sensitive to these changes. They have perceptions. These are people that have been through a lot and are willing to feel. They're already psychologists, good psychologists in some places. And that's why we like working with them. They will feel from the smallest changes what can be expected of them in the entire organization. In the small changes they felt on themselves, I can feel how it will work in my organization. If I'm a manager with all my years and experience, I imagine that the way I go through it, that's the way it'll go through us. And then it will fill us with joy. But of course, until the joy, care or don't care, oh, you know, another day has gone by. So working with I think it's worth starting from there. Apart from that, we get an entryway to all the work with the organization. And we continue working with the executives. And after a few weeks, we start working with the public. It may possibly be, we'll see it by example. In all these places, there's stages. We won't work with everyone together at once, and we won't pass. We won't mix them up. That's another question we had. In the beginning, no. We need to keep the hierarchy that we have. In the meantime, unless they all feel ready,
שזה יבוא מהם כבר.
כן.
It must come from them.
זה צריך להיות ללא דיכוי.
It has to be without
איך אתה מגדיר דיכוי?
repression.
דיכוי שאני לא נותן פקודה. אני תמיד
I don't give
שומע
instructions. I hear from them what's going
ממש
on.
שומע מהם. למה הם מוכנים, למה הם לא. אני שואל אותם בין כל
I'm
מיני
asking
שאלות
them between all the
בסדנאות.
questions in
ואני
the
לפי התגובה
Siddur,
שומע
in the workshops, and according to the response, I see what they're anticipating or not.
אתה מבין, לחנך נער על פי דרכו.
And you see, you can educate a child in his own way. The whole subject of resistance can be, it's natural, even for a cleaning lady. We're not doing anything. We're explaining to them all kinds of general things in the nature of man, in the world, the animals, and history. We convey such things that they have no resistance to because it does not. So people can come with a wide range of things. Say the first meeting, you started with executive team because it starts from the high up to the lowest. So you had a first meeting with the top management. Let's say there's 10 people there. The executive management team. You came, you talked, you had lectures, workshops. And the next day it turns out that I'm not talking about resistance. The next day, that 2 or 3, that if people are resisting it, they're not ready. And now to get into this waste of time, when the organization is pressured for time, they can advance the VP, the CFO, the engineering leader, the marketing manager, and only the VP HR will say, yes, it would be great if we could do this. And 3 out of 10 starting to do a lobby against the process. I'm talking about us beginning to work with them after a presentation, and maybe not even one, that we have a few meetings of presentations of why and how, and afterward we reach an agreement that we're given to organize 5 meetings of 1 meeting each, once a week. That's it. We're not stealing time from them. Everyone wants to show that they're so busy and you're stealing time. He knows what we're talking about. Okay, fine. But if they decided, fine. And we conclude that everyone has to be there. Not that I have something urgent. There's nothing urgent. It's an hour, and it depends on the general manager. If on each thing in the world you can say, I'm closing my eyes, I don't care, I don't want it, those kind of things we're not talking about. We make a logical presentation that's talking about, yes, it's worth it for them to make the organization healthy with our method. We're coming to an organization that feels difficulty. If it doesn't have any difficulties, what are we going to sell them? Oxygen, it doesn't need. What will you bring them? If you can bring him, I can promise, if you can bring him another 10% of income, of course. But you can't prove it to him. You're coming to make the organization healthy because it has all kinds of difficulties right now. And you need to show them that they can reach a state where they can appreciate it in money as well. The people are starting to work. They're helping one another. Maybe you'll need to fire lots of people from your organization. We're not concerned with everyone remaining. We're talking about the presentation level. We're talking about being concerned for the sake of the organization, for the sake of the effectiveness, etc. And then from such a stage, and at the end of the day, we're coming to the HR department, not to the manager. We're coming to the Histadrut or something. And then we start working with them. We send them our proposal to the HR department that it's worth it for them because they're closer to relationships between people and changes, and through them we are operating on others. I liked what you said at the beginning of the show, that in the process of change, the minute people are ready and ripe in the organization, then the whole thing is received better. One of the things people are used to doing today, they launch like some kind of production event where they make a presentation to the workers themselves, to workers, employees, managers, and in that way get everyone. So people are making this change and they don't understand why. The fact that my manager understands is great, but it doesn't mean that I'm in the middle of the pyramid. I don't even understand the significance of this process. Why am I being taken for an hour discussion 2 or 3 times a week? It has to be clear to everyone. So do you encourage that, and an event explaining to people the significance of the approach? If we've gone through a few meetings with the general manager, then yes. After they accepted it and said it's worth it to them, they felt on themselves that it works, that there's change, that it works on them, that they will feel that it brings them closer together, that it starts working in a manner that saves them time and effort and aggravation, etc. And the importance of it, the moment they understand that it's working on them, they can transfer it to money. How in the levels of production it can be productive. In many days of work, firings, etc., can they be the agents of change? Yes. You're already making an internal change for the process itself. Can we say there's a principle where we go down from the high level to the smaller levels in the organization? You said there's but we're talking about the executive management, so they don't start feeling that there's something. They need to feel that there's something that they really need right now. Also on a private level, as humans, we want to see where it's going to take the organization. So we're beginning to see sparks at the emotional level. That's the correct time to move forward. You said previously not to get mixed up the different levels in the organization. The executive team doesn't matter the amount of processes, it depends on the size of the organization. But is it true that the advancement to the next stage as long as there's a group, a small-knit group that already feels taste in this whole process, yes, I believe we can start like that. I think so. That's the natural manner for the wisdom to disseminate, to spread, just like in nature, just like in human society. It comes from upward downward, and never from down up. What can the demand be? But the trick is to have the advantage of from upward to below.
אז עברנו, באמת ראינו עכשיו את המנגנון
We
הזה.
saw this whole system, it's clear.
ועכשיו אני רוצה לעבור ככה לחלק ב'.
And now I want to go to the second stage. Up until now, we talked about the organization that's starting to go through the story. Inside the process itself, we're managing according to the old approach, the old brain, the old heart, and gradually we're acquiring the new approach, a new mind, a new perspective, new things. Now, in such a process of change, it's a process that's actually difficult for everyone. I used to be a manager, and I went through something with a couple of friends, and I myself went through a change. And afterwards, I had to prepare everyone for this stage so it would be easy for them to get through it. And then there was a feeling of lack of stability, because you're letting go of something new, but you haven't really grasped the new thing. There's a feeling of the fact that we need it to be as stable as possible, so there won't be great gaps. It's important to go through this correctly. If you have some principles to give us to be careful of, can help us in this stage of transition from the old approach to the new approach. And I'm sure it's going to be ongoing, not just a week or two, it's a stage. The answer is there's no transition. That's interesting. What you just said, it's nice, it's very convincing. From my ego, how to go from one egoistic place to another egoistic place, to see what's damaging and what's effective. And in that, I have to convince myself and everyone else. Here, I don't need to convince anyone. I don't go from state to state because I go through it internally first, and then I implement it on the outside in a natural manner. Tell me, you raise children, yes. You saw that suddenly they change. Suddenly he doesn't want to play his previous games. Suddenly he takes something new, and you see on him that apparently he grew up. Yes, was it forced? No, it was natural. So you told him, do this, do the opposite. Leave your dolls, you have to throw them away? No. Same thing here. There is no transition. Very nice. This process that is natural, what you just said answers lots of questions. We're going to manage the process, but whoever will manage it will be in the process himself, and he will feel, he will smell what's worth doing, what kind of new forms of connection between the worker, the employee, decision-making. What are the relations, the new circles? You're saying this process will happen naturally, but still it has to be managed. Which part has to be managed? After the audience is ready and the manager is ready, so how can we put it? It happens also through workshops, through talking. How can we change? They'll sit and discuss. We give them questions, they awaken questions, and then through these discussions, we are clarifying the new relations. What are we missing now? What's convenient for us now compared to what we had before? What can we change to feel with a new attitude in these work relations? They have to give an answer themselves. Again, everything's through discussions, through workshops. This approach, the wisdom of the masses.
הבנייה של השכל המשותף, כמו שאמרת.
building this common mind, you said. We really had a few questions from our team. They said many times today a manager is required to give answers really quickly. He doesn't have time. The manager will hear them, what they're prepared for, and in accordance with that, he will participate with them in changing the system, a little bit each time. It's a process that will grow gradually, be built gradually. The way I made decisions before and now I'll change it, no, but lots of managers, lots of organizers, let's say the organizing team will be small because it will work. They'll understand each other more. They'll work closer to one another. Another question that we were asked, how can we implement this whole process that is natural in the everyday ongoing stuff? The ongoing things on a daily basis. We still operate in the previous approach. We're used to do certain things, and we have to gradually integrate it so that it becomes an ongoing process and not a one-time thing. We need to see a chain of development. How can we implement it, integrate it on a daily basis? In our everyday life, they receive it from changing. Maybe bring about a stage where lunch together, they have lunch together, all kinds of connections, on breaks, vacation days, that we come to that workplace, we come to kids, like we come to a circus, we organize a show for them. It's in a natural way. They have to think about this. I can't say there's all kinds of things that can be invited. Doesn't cost a lot to the organization, but it really connects people. To buy cookies, and invite some snake show. And it's interesting for kids. And everyone comes, the mothers get to know one another. It's more warm and simple. They film something together that really helps from week to move forward. From what you're describing, I'm starting to feel that the word change is not even relevant. That's true, because it's not a change. It's from inside, connection, and that's it. The natural bonding, even the subject of changing your habits, it's not even a change. It's something that starts to happen in a natural manner from itself. It happens on its own. Is there still some effort that we have to make, the worker, the manager in this process? And nowhere. There's no forcing. Is there any effort, inner effort that I have to carry out? No. The influence of the environment on everyone. It's a way that has to be very smooth, extremely smooth. Everything goes smoothly and politely, and they themselves will feel that it's worth it for them. And we see it. We see it in the field where we're already doing this. That's it.
קצת שאלות על הנושא של רוח
A
הארגון.
few questions about the spirit of the organization. There's a subject,
התחומים המדוברים בתחום הארגון, והוא נקרא
let's say,
תרבות ארגונית,
they talk about the
אקלים
culture of the
מדברים על רוח
organization.
כי בעצם ארגון, אנחנו יודעים,
Because the organization, we know,
אורגניזם חי כזה.
it's a living organism. It has attributes, it has character, behavior, its own language, its own codes.
תרבות.
A whole culture. A person comes in, takes some time to get used to the culture even.
איך התהליך הזה ישפיע
How will this
על
process
התרבות
influence
הארגונית? מה
the
יקרה לתרבות שלנו?
organization's culture?
אתם כבר מבינים מתוך מה שדיברנו,
You understand from what we spoke of,
שהם יהיו אנשים אחרים לגמרי.
they will be completely different people inside the
הם
organization.
ירגישו שייכות.
They will feel belonging to the workplace, belonging to people. They will feel that they're managing together, participating together.
אם אנחנו נעשה פעם בחודש,
If
נגיד
once a
כזה
month
תיאטרון ילדים,
we make like a show for kids,
נעשה איזה... אפשר לעשות המון דברים. אפילו בוא נעשה ככה.
there's tons of things that we can do. We can take a day off,
באיזשהו אפילו ערב בשבוע.
or maybe an evening off.
ונעשה לנשים שלנו
We'll
חופשית.
take a hairdressing place and we'll let all our wives get everything fixed up, their makeup, their hair. We'll make a holiday.
אולי יקר.
It might be
לכל אישה,
expensive,
מתי היא יכולה לעשות, אבל ככה,
but,
יודע,
you know,
בכיף.
let's do it for fun.
צריכים למצוא
We need to find
מה העיקרון שעומד מאחורי
what's the
הרעיון הזה?
principle behind this idea that you just said, that they're together.
העיקרון הוא יחד. זאת אומרת, אפשר
The idea is together. You can bring lots of examples, but the principle is
הופעה.
for the kids a show,
כל מיני דברים, כן?
candies and stuff, of course.
לנשים,
For the women,
אפילו בבושקות, לא חשוב מי, אפילו מבוגרות שלא צריכות את זה.
even
בואי, נעשה
elder women,
נסגור
come,
אותם
let's do it together.
ככה, משהו. זה מושך, זה
It's very
מעניין,
attractive, it's
זה
interesting,
שמח,
it's
זה
happy,
קלות כזאת.
it's easy, everyone's together,
זה מתערב מאוד.
and it brings people closer together.
ועוד אפשר, אני אפילו לא יודע, אבל...
There's other things we can do.
פיקניקים
We can have picnics.
אני הייתי דווקא... אבל שוב,
But
זה לא
again,
סתם לשבת בדשא.
It's not just sitting on the grass, it's games together,
בדרך כלל עושים, נגיד...
all kinds of things that we normally do when we go out on Independence Day,
מובילים את זה, וכן הלאה.
etc.
זה בתוספת למה
It's an addition to what we
כל פעם
give each time, workshops, discussions, questions.
וכן הלאה.
We respond
תוך חצי שנה, מה שאנחנו
within a half a year
בארגון,
of us being inside the organization. We need to see it completely different, completely different.
נניח שבאמת עברנו
ומה שהם קונים,
And what they
בצורה כזאת, למה
purchase
שהם מגיעים,
and
הם
what
כבר
they
לא יכולים להיפרד.
what they acquire, they won't be able to go back from it. It's very hard. It's impossible.
מה שאתה מקבל
Because
שם,
what you receive there,
מקבל מאף
you don't
מקום,
receive in any other place, only from the round society. So a person can't get out of there. Where will he go?
לעולם הריק.
To the empty world.
מזה, הכל נשאר לו ריק. מה שהוא מקבל
Because
שם,
everything remains
אין
empty. What he gets there,
ספק לכאלו,
there's no supplier for feelings like that, like what he gets there. So now you just gave me a thought. Say somebody leaves a workplace like that, it will be very difficult for him. He'll go into the jungle.
ממש מצב
It's really a situation where he sees himself lost. He's completely lost. He'll go into another organization that's not working according to that approach. It'll be very difficult. He'll feel himself. An organization is an environment. We started with that. And it influences all the people inside it. That's what we're using, the influence of the environment on a person. Now we really want to verify how we build the organization as an organization that builds all the time, and let's say the process takes half a year. What happens afterwards? The person's ego doesn't rest, doesn't take a vacation. Therefore, we have to escort them to the end of time, until all the organizations in the world will also get the same form, until they will want to connect between them in the same manner, until the whole world will get the form of one organization. So this process doesn't have a beginning and end. There's circles, 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 like cogwheels in one system. This is something that we need to develop, how we create a process that starts and doesn't actually end, until this mechanism will truly will really move in all its wheels without anyone driving anything. They'll all just turn around together and they'll all be connected, without any pressure of one on the other, but simply together. And then you reach real freedom. Because no one obligates me and I'm not obligating anyone else. But just the general, mutual getting together, they drive us together, that we turn. We don't touch each other even to the extent that we understand one another. We don't feel any conflict, just the opposite, complete participation. If I turn like this beside you, love thy neighbor as thyself. I need to feel everything that you are, and you need to feel everything that I am, and then in a mutual manner that we arrive at this collaboration, then we turn in this manner without pressuring one another, without obligating one another. And then we reach one mechanism that is one. That's the analog situation. Not in cuts and without pressure. There was a question in this desire to keep the chain going. Is it correct to train people inside the organization, maybe under HR, to be in charge of relations in the organization, to make sure there's continuity of this process? No, I don't think so. It would be redundant, such a team. Anything that has to do with relations between people, we have to bring them, and we have to build them a department and educate a few people. We see in workshops and lectures, we can take a few people and bring them closer and teach them that they will be our representatives there and will convey our message, and each time they will be working inside the organization according to the plans that we bring them, and will still come once a week, let's say, but they work on it on an ongoing basis. They organize the workshops with the kids, with the wives, the vacations. It must be, but not like it is now. Maybe completely other people. People who have the spirit of connection. Our time is up. I would like to, in one sentence, that you define, what does it mean, people that are close to the spirit of connection? How do I identify it? We see the way they help us organize workshops, the way they participate in it, the way they absorb it, the way they grasp it. People that they have the spirit of connection. It lives in them. There's people like that. And there's people that it's less.
ואותם אנחנו צריכים לאתר.
And we need to identify those people and advance, make them into a team that will help us. Okay, our time is up. Thank you, Rav Laitman. Thank you, Nitzama Zuz. Thank you for being with us. Until next time, let's strengthen the spirit of connection. Thank you and goodbye.